also criticized rising Islamophobia in Western countries, adding that hate crimes become a threat to all of us.
Irkçılık, yabancı karşıtlığı ve bu temelde işlenen ancak kimi ülkelerde ifade özgürlüğü öne sürülerek müsamaha gösterilen nefret suçları hepimiz için büyük bir tehdide dönüşmektedir.
Former Ambassador Aydin Nurhan is the Chief Advisor at the Ankara Center for Crisis and Policy Studies. He's joining us now to discuss Turkey's role at this year's General Assembly. Good afternoon, Mr. Aydin Nurhan. Thanks for joining us on NewsHour.
Good afternoon. Happy to be with you.
Now, Turkish President Erdogan is attending the 78th session of the UN General Assembly in New York. What are the key messages or priorities do you anticipate he will emphasize during his address later today?
Firstly, of course, Erdogan's call that the world is greater than 5. And now we see a lot of supporters for that. We have the Arab groups, African groups, G4, and many other groups who are organizing for a reformation of the United Nations. Some propose permanent memberships for their groups. Some propose rotating memberships with veto power to the Security Council. So that is the first thing I think he would be stressing, together with many other leaders of the world. In this case, you know that China and Russia say that West dominates the UN, World Bank, IMF, and they want to get rid of American influence. And the United States is against Russian veto power at the Security Council. So nobody is happy with the World War II, post-World War II system. So everybody wants to change it. But then comes the question of who should be the new members of the Security Council. Then we will be facing big troubles at that point. The second point he would be going for is, as he wrote in his book, the global justice. Here, I would ask our viewers to contemplate on one point: rules-based global order. That's what the US says, and the Western world says. Okay, the homework for all of our audience is, think of every government on earth doing what US governments are doing. Would it be chaos or not? That's the second thing. So then we have the grain corridor, of course. I think that will be discussed. Ukrainian-Russian war. Turkey is in active neutrality in this case, and we are working very hard for that. And then Africa. I think he would be addressing the problem of Africans. This is very, very important. And, the Western armies invade African countries, and African hungry invade the Western countries. If we can stop that invasion, then Africans may stay in their countries with investments too, with good will, of course. The immigration, of course, refugees, 11,000 in one day into Italy. That's what I read recently. What would that mean? This is a tectonic shift, and you cannot stop it. There is no way to stop this. So we have to work closely on that. We have to keep people in their countries. How? We have to be honest to them. Environment, Emine Erdogan's good project. I think he would be stressing that point as a very important case. The global threat is here now. We are feeling it every single day. Floodings in Libya, earthquakes, etc. So energy would be another point, perhaps. Trade corridor through Basra and Iraq and Turkey into Europe. That would be a point perhaps he would be making. Terror, as you said, and as Erdogan stressed, the United States, I hope, would start gradually come to a point where cooperating with terrorists against other terrorists would have no future and leaving a NATO ally. Now, for Islamophobia, think of this. It is not a governmental policy. It's grassroots movement. It means that Islamophobia in the West, especially in Europe, is very dangerous because it is grassroots. It's coming from the people, not from the governments. People democratically choose their way against Muslims. This is democracy saying, we want to hate you. Democracy wants to say, we want to hate them, we hate them. Now, if it is democracy, it means the world is going to enemy camps. This is enmity. So this is a very, very important point for us. I think this is my answer for the question.
Okay, now, just before I move on to my next question, I'm looking for your opinion here. Each of these areas of discussion and concern that you mentioned are as equally as important. But I just want to know your opinion on what kind of shuffle will be able to take place in the Security Council, do you think? And what chances do countries like China and Russia stand in terms of having a say about new members or taking members out?
I think they also, including the U.S., these permanent members, although they are not there now, only the host, Biden, is there. But I think all these permanent members are coming to a certain point that post-World War II system is tired now. It's not working anymore. There should be a way. But more than the members, I think the quarrel will be between the new candidates. Think of it, from the Islamic world. Who should be the permanent member? From Africa, who should be the permanent member? From Asia, let alone other countries, from among the Turkic countries, who would be representing them in the permanent council? So the quarrel would be more among the possible members than the permanent members. Right. Here, of course, then, the permanent members are not very worried, I think. But I think we have to go working on this for some many years, perhaps a decade, and then come to a certain point, perhaps. But it's not easy. It's very hard. Okay.
All right. Now, the session's theme is rebuilding trust and reigniting global solidarity. So how do you think President Erdogan's visit aligns with this theme? And what role might Turkey play in advancing the 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals?
Yeah. Now, the first thing is the bipolar stability. Warsaw Pact versus NATO. It's gone. It's more dangerous today. So we have unpredictability. That's very important. Another very important point is American dominance after the Cold War. Now, the American legitimacy, again, American legitimacy is in shambles. It's waning so swiftly, so quickly. It means then the trust is gone. Can we Turks trust the United States in Syria and many other countries in the world? They also have problem trusting the US and the international global order the West is now ruling. So it is very important. Another point is the interest-based global order, which is very opposite from Erdogan's views. Interest-based relations with Africa. That's what the colonialism was about. That's an important point. Another point is, of course, immigration, as I said. Western armies just dominate Africa, for instance. There is no stability, and what we should have is children's future. That's very important. And lastly, China is an exporter. Turkey is a rising exporter. Before that, Pax Britannica, you remember, Holland, Britain, other European countries were exporters. So they wanted stability and order in the world. Who wants that now? China wants it to sell. Turkey wants it to sell. We want stability in the world. That's what we are working. That's what the whole world should be working about. But if you start losing in global trade, then you will get out of the game and do dirty things.
Okay.
That's what Turkey doesn't want. And China doesn't want it too.
Okay, now President Erdogan is scheduled to engage in high-level meetings with his counterparts during this visit. What diplomatic objectives or international issues might be on his agenda for discussion with world leaders?
Of course, he'll not meet Biden, I think. He may be meeting him, just walking on the corridor. But of course, with the U.S., we have the problem of Sweden's membership in NATO, F-16s, which is tied to that problem. Now, there is an important point here. Remember the Turkish-American trade. It was so minuscule in U.S. volume and in Turkish volume. Now we're going to increase it to $100 billion. That is dangerous. European Union, we are so tied to it commercially. We say we want to have variety in the world on exports. Now we get this, just as we have the EU. Now we're going to get stuck to the United States as two big importing centers, and that's very dangerous because when they want, they can harm our economy very badly. That's so important. Another thing is, of course, as I said before, trade routes. I think Iraq would be the best part from Asia to Europe through Iraq and Turkey. That should be, he may be stressing that. With the Greeks, Aegean, but a new friendship. I think Greeks are coming to their senses that Turkey is becoming so great that to quarrel with Turkey, they would lose so much. It's better to be friends. I mean, that would be, I think, a good opening between the two countries. Israel, we have Palestinian issue and the new energy corridor, of course. That would be a point. With Guterres, I think grain, that would be Russian and Ukrainian grain. That would be it. With Stoltenberg, again, Ukraine question and grain corridor, again, same thing. And Turkish-EU relations, of course, that's a very important point now. Erdogan said, if you want, okay, we are ready. But that's not putting a point. He put a comma there. He said, let's have a new, honest start. European Parliament said the same thing. And I think it's a good thing. They said, let's have a fresh, new, honest start. An honest one. We were doing this. We acted like we are going to join, and they acted as they were going to take us in. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But in the future, if Turkish economy gets to the level, let's say, of $2 trillion, they would be begging us, perhaps, come in. That's a different story. I wonder if it's an exaggeration or not. It is possible, but today it is not possible. Honest relations is much, much better than that.
Okay. Now, another highlight of the trip is President Erdogan's invitation for Elon Musk to establish Tesla's 7th factory here in Turkey. How significant is this invitation in terms of Turkey's economic development and the global electric vehicle market?
Right. That is very, very important. It's very important. Elon Musk says one word and the whole stock exchange, goes into earthquake. So if he says something, it has a great impact on business world. So if he says he's coming to Turkey and investing, then that is a wonderful big plus for Turkish economy. That's very important. So other investments would be coming to Turkey. Technology and innovation with him, those would also come into our country. Our youths, experts, engineers may go to the US, to his factories to work, to get trained perhaps. That would be important. We can export what he does in Turkey, his cars, for instance. I wonder if saying the name would go into advertisement, but if he has a car plant in Turkey, we can export them. They sell good in the world. But there is one thing. Saudi Arabia, as I read, is also interested in having a factory, electric car factory in Saudi Arabia. They are in contact with Elon Musk too. So that's another point. This is what I can say about Elon Musk.
Okay.
I think he has good chemistry with Erdogan.
All right. Well, I have one other question, which is my last question, also a little bit more on Elon Musk, and then I'll let you go. Elon Musk expressed interest in working with Turkish authorities to offer Starlink satellite services in Turkey as well. So how might this partnership benefit both SpaceX and Turkey's telecommunications and internet infrastructure?
Very dangerous. Very dangerous. He would have monopoly on our communication. He can paralyze us anytime. So that's very, very dangerous. But there may be many areas of cooperation in this field that would not put Turkey under monopoly and have Turkish technology improve in that field. That's another thing, of course. So let's say that we can find many, many various ways of cooperating him on space technology, internet from the space, etc. Yes, I am for all of those, of course. Turkey should have all of them, but not a monopoly. He paralyzed Ukraine, for instance, in Russian war. So he has so much power, so we have to think 100 times, perhaps, in dealing with this issue. That's all I can say.
That's very wise. Thank you so much for joining the program. I really appreciate your insight.
Thank you very much.
Now, Canada's accusation that India may have been involved in the assassination of a Sikh activist on its soil has triggered a growing row with Ottawa and New Delhi, both expelling senior diplomats, sending relations between the two countries plunging.
Canada said on Monday it had credible information linking Indian government agents to the murder of a Sikh separatist leader in British Columbia in June, an accusation